Hello and welcome. Now, today I remembered to turn the light on, but actually only after the camera told me to try filming in a lighter setting. So there we are, hopefully a lighter setting. And next week I hope to be able to talk to you about some recent travelling adventures I have or will have been on. Always assuming I return from those travelling adventures. More of that to come, so please tune in next week for some news, and if I don't return, maybe these talks will be coming from an entirely new location. But I have every intention on continuing here. And in the meantime, I'd like to get on with these comments and questions that you've kindly sent in. Beginning with, I have a question regarding metta. So metta means loving kindness. In my profession, it's normal that I get attacked, threatened or verbally abused. It's very hard to see people who attack me with loving kindness, but it's the right thing to do. Lately I struggle to protect my mind. As I want to practice metta in my meditation, could you give me some of your thoughts about that matter? Thank you very much. Okay, always a lot said about practicing metta in your meditation. Now, we strive to develop the quality of metta, loving kindness. A quality. The act of metta, loving kindness, is in thought, in body and how we communicate with others, with kindness and with respect, and with our tone, mannerisms and the way we behave in all of our social interactions. A good warm-up practice to your meditation is perhaps when you first sit down for your sitting, to spend a little time reflecting on that, but not necessarily. Well, it is not my practice to sit for the entire session trying to exude metta. No one hears that. We develop the quality by being kind to others, beginning with being kind to ourselves. So the recitation of these lists of starting with metta to ourselves, then to those that we love, then to those that we are indifferent to, and then to those that we dislike, those that are near, those that are far, etc., should not be a mantra for meditation. If it is, it will become just that, a mantra, a recitation of words that will blur into the background of thought in the foreground. But more an aspiration to develop a quality of metta, loving kindness, which will naturally come about as a result of spending time practicing meditation, developing samadhi. There's no need to sit with this rote method of spreading metta to the universe, starting from near, expanding to far, unless it is just as a warm-up practice to help the mind to become calm and settle, and the body to relax and feel at ease. So firstly, that's with regards to this practice of metta. It isn't so much a practice of metta, it's a quality we develop, like the quality of vipassana that we develop. Look at these words that are so often associated with a form of practice to real qualities we can have. We can have a quality of vipassana, that is seeing clearly the true characteristics of existence and a quality of metta, which is true loving kindness for all beings, demonstrated by our actions of body, speech and mind. Aren't those qualities so much more deep and fulfilling and beneficial for not only yourself but all beings than sitting there listing subject matters for thought? Okay, yes, the thought process, the analysis whilst sitting, whilst given that opportunity, helps get your thinking process into that correct frame of mind towards developing those qualities. But that isn't the practice, it's a reminder. So, that aside for a moment, in this particularly difficult situation where in your profession you're being threatened verbally, abused and attacked even, how can you have loving kindness for those individuals threatening you, abusing you, attacking you? Don't try too hard. There are other qualities. The 4 Brahma Viharas are metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, very important, mudita, joy for others, or the opposite of jealousy, and upekkha, equanimity. Now, if someone's attacking you, abusing you, hurting you, firstly, have metta and loving kindness for yourself. Protect yourself. Walk away. Get out of the situation if you can, if you are able to do so. You're then also protecting that person, and this is a form of kindness, from doing you harm and generating their own bad karma. So simply run away if you can. Get out of the way. Avoid harm to yourself and them creating harm by way of creating bad karma to themselves. And you do this out of compassion, karuna. So compassion is the foremost of these Brahma Viharas to be employed, to be used, to be relied upon in these situations. Before you can have loving kindness for someone who is attacking you, abusing you, hurting you, you need to have compassion for them. And that compassion isn't feeling sorry for them, it is understanding them, understanding their ignorance, understanding they don't know that what they're doing is bad karma and will have results that will catch up with them later. They don't understand that they are the same as you, you are the same as them. We're all living, sentient beings wishing to live in harmony with each other. But on occasions, frustrations, obstacles get in the way of that, and anger comes to the surface. This is something we can feel compassion towards another who is attacking us, abusing us. And rather than dwelling ourselves as victims of that attack, on that harm, that hurt they're causing, and then trying to somehow artificially create loving kindness for them by way of this recitation of simple lists, put that all aside, let go. Someone's hurting you, abusing you, attacking you. It's not, oh, peace and love, loving kindness. No, it's walk away, step away. But with compassion, out of compassion for their suffering, the suffering they're inflicting upon themselves now, and the suffering that they will have as a result of their actions in the future. Have compassion for that, understanding their ignorance. This will also allow them the opportunity to see the error of their ways. We can also, as a point, note to ourselves that the behaviour of this individual at this moment in time is not necessarily how they always are. Always remembering that someone loves them also. They probably have a mother who loves them unconditionally, regardless of their actions, their behaviour. As your mother loves you unconditionally, regardless of your actions or your behaviour. Just bringing that thought to mind helps with compassion for that individual, understanding for that individual that they are suffering. And their suffering is greater than yours as a victim. In fact, you're not the victim, they're the victim. So this compassion, karuna, the second of these 4 Brahma Viharas, is very important and a tool, but a quality that you've developed through simply keeping sila, keeping your precepts, practicing meditation, and developing wisdom. Along with the metta, the quality of metta that you've developed through sila, samadhi, panya. And mudita, joy for others. And along with those 3 comes equanimity, upekkha, as a result of keeping precepts and practicing meditation. Not to react inappropriately in such situations by hitting back, and also not to take the attack personally, victimizing yourself, creating the I am the one who's being attacked, I am the victim, but seeing that other party as the victim of their own ignorance, and that the harm they're causing being primarily the harm they're causing towards themselves, both now and in the future. This is separating you from the situation. So as well as physically getting away from the situation where it is possible to do so, or facing up to it where you can't, but neutrally, peacefully, passively, where possible. Sometimes it may be appropriate and necessary for one to defend oneself in such situations. But where it is possible, to do this without causing any harm to another or to yourself. But always emphasizing compassion. So often I hear this sort of question coming up, oh, I've been practicing metta, but then faced with this situation, the metta drops away. Well, of course it does. You can't love everyone. Some people, from your perspective, in your view, are plainly quite horrible, quite horrid to you, and their behaviour is quite horrid, abhorrent, in all ways. But you can have compassion for that individual, compassion for their lack of understanding. You can have understanding for their lack of understanding or their ignorance. This is true loving kindness. This is metta. The compassion, karuna, allows metta to develop as a quality naturally. Because as you walk away and you leave the violent situation with compassion, metta will just naturally arise. So don't force it. Don't try to have metta, struggling to protect your mind. No. Walk away, protect your physical body, and your mind is protected through karuna, compassion. allowing metta to arise. So I'm not downplaying this practice of metta in our meditation. Some people enjoy that, need that. But don't lose sight of the fact it's a quality we're trying to develop in real life, with everyone, all beings. Not a recitation exercise when you're sitting, listing all those beings you wish to have loving kindness for. Go out there and love. Go out there and be kind. Have compassion for even those that are your enemies. And this will result in metta, loving kindness. So, I think the third or fourth Dhammapada verse is he hurt me, he abused me, he attacked me. Goes on like something like this. And then goes on to say that the one who dwells on this is the one who is suffering. But the one who lets go of that is the one who's free from suffering. And the way to let go of that is through karuna, compassion. So people don't talk about my karuna practice. Oh, can you guide us in a karuna meditation? Why is that? I don't know. It's not popular, is it? Not been popularized. But without karuna, without compassion, how can you have loving kindness, metta? It's just words, it goes no deeper. It comes from compassion, karuna. So, I hope that helps. Someone wants me to make them an invitation. So I can't make invitations for people to come and visit. This where I am. I'm always here. As I say, I've had a couple of short trips recently. Just send me an email. The email address is on the main channel description page. How to relieve mental health and anxiety, sleeping problems, etc. Well, keep the precepts, practice meditation. Now, the practice of metta meditation, yes, in this situation, is certainly a method, a tool. This is where people do use metta as a practice that aids mental health, anxiety, and allows for better sleep. Because it's going towards training the mind towards loving kindness, beginning with yourself. But if you are keeping all 5 precepts unequivocally, and you're practicing meditation, even if your meditation to you seems unsuccessful, you're not getting deep, absorbed states of samadhi. But if you are sitting quietly, doing nothing for an hour in the morning after you wake up, and you're sitting for an hour in the evening before you go to sleep, with no external distractions or entertainment, just simply sitting with that silence, or the noises of ambient surroundings. Just being with that. That is the practice. Precepts, meditation. It leads to wisdom. But more importantly, firstly, it will lead to a reduction in anxiety, better mental health, and much more restful sleep. So if you come back to me in the comments or you send me an email and you say you are absolutely unequivocally keeping all 5 precepts and you are meditating every day for a minimum of half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, and you're still having these problems, then we can talk further. But I would guess that you're not. Because any practitioner who is keeping precepts and practicing meditation immediately sees the result of this in the form of reduced anxiety, better mental health, and better sleep. It comes as a result of the practice. One of the first things we notice. So, keep watching these talks. It's all we talk about, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. How to deal with people that think they're better than you at work and annoy you. Every time I talk to this lady, she asks, "Do you remember?" And I'm like, yeah, every time. Please, some guidance. Not sure I really understand the question. If people think they're better than you at work and they annoy you, does it matter what they think? What you're talking about there is what you think about what they think. And you're not saying exactly what annoys you about that, but I would guess what is annoying you is your own thinking about what they're thinking. Stop thinking about it. Does it matter? If they are better than you at work, great. Does it matter? Let them be better. They'll get lots of the work done. There's less for you to do. Take some moments to breathe. Enjoy your day. Every time you talk to the lady, she says, "Do you remember?" So what? Does it matter? Sometimes people say these things trying to be helpful. Now, it's very difficult when you are living in a country where you don't speak the language, sometimes, in communication. I have to continually say, "Do you understand? Do you understand?" And it seems that that is very patronizing, and that's perhaps what you're feeling yourself. Now, if I was speaking to you or speaking to someone whose mother tongue is English, and after every sentence I said, "Do you understand?" I would expect that they would find that, yes, very annoying, very patronizing, and they would think of me as some kind of odd person. And it would be inappropriate, because of course they understand. But when I'm speaking to somebody who most likely does not understand, it's an essential part of the conversation. Otherwise, people just continually just nod and say yes, even though they're not understanding. So maybe you're nodding, your eyes are glazing over, and you're thinking, "Oh, here she comes again, she's going to annoy me," before she's even said anything. Leading her to say, "Do you remember? Do you remember?" So try and have compassion for her. She annoys you, you don't like her. She thinks she's better than you. You think she thinks she's better than you. So don't immediately try and have metta, loving kindness for her. But compassion, yes. Compassion for her having to put up with you, because she thinks that you're not as good as her and you don't understand. Demonstrate through your actions of body, speech and mind that you can do what it is you're there to do. You don't need to be as good as her or better than her. You're employed to do a job. Do that job as diligently as you can. If you're unable to do some aspect of that, ask for help. Ask this lady, this individual, for help. That will go some way towards restoring your relationship or improving your relationship with her, if you ask her to help you. But if you don't need the help, then just say thank you. Yes, I remember. Thank you. But listen to what she has to say. She may be trying to help you. You may not need that help, but still, she's trying to help you out of compassion, out of loving kindness. So make it clear you've listened. Say, yes, I remember. Thank you. Not, I'm like, yeah. Yes, I understand. Thank you. Nodding with eye contact. Then she'll feel comfortable that she can just leave you to get on with your work. Right, okay. Honestly, I think my problem is that I'm not trying hard enough to acquire physical means to self-sustenance. Doing everything for knowledge and understanding, forsaking the things that I need to survive. It's like an addiction to enlightenment or something. Toxic outcomes. I need to find balance. Okay, so when you say physical means to self-sustenance, we need to have food, clothing, shelter and medicine. We actually need very little. In lay life we probably need a little bit more, because if we're doing a job and we're working, we'll need more than one change of clothes. We might need other additional things to support our work. This has to come first and foremost. Before I can practice, I need every day to ensure that I'm fed. So I have the routine, the exercise of going on arms round Pindapata to collect that food, then eat that food. I don't have to cook it or prepare it, it is already prepared. But that is the form of sustenance that is necessary. So it requires effort. I'm not sure what your question is exactly. If I forsake that, I will not have energy to practice. I will not be able to practice. I would quickly become ill. One needs food. Then perhaps you're trying too hard to acquire knowledge. But come back to the basics. Are you keeping the precepts? The knowledge of those is what's most important. And then, are you meditating? That is what you should be doing. It isn't acquiring anything, either intellectually or materially. Just sit and meditate in the morning and in the evening. During the day as well, if you can. From this you will attain all the knowledge you need for enlightenment. So put everything down, and then you're letting go of putting away, throwing away this toxicness and these outcomes from whatever it is you're doing exactly, because you're not saying that is leading to additional suffering, rather than leading to the fruits, the benefits of practice. So keep precepts, practice meditation. Once again, it's the answer. It leads to panya, wisdom. Right. Some Theravada monks in the West are starting to receive monk names like Venerable Keith and Venerable Alan. There's nothing wrong with those names. I'm laughing because it sounds quite strange. Do you think vernacular names like that make Theravada more approachable in more countries, or does the practice stray from original intent in any way? So I've never heard of this thing, Venerable Keith, Venerable Alan, but in Thailand the monks keep their not Christian name but given name. So in Thailand I was called Pradhan. Pra is venerable. In the equivalent, let's say, doesn't mean exactly that, the Thai word equivalent of venerable. Bante is the Pali word for prefix. Instead of Mr., one calls a monk Bante, or a nun Aya. But actually it's complicated because Aya means something slightly different, but Bante is the usual form, the prefix for a monk. Here they say the Sinhala word for reverend, but this is a legacy of Catholic invasion of this country historically, and it's all mixed up with a lot of Portuguese and Dutch and the language, that is. The Sangha itself they don't consider you reverend or priests, although they call them priests, the monks here, and reverend. It's all just words, it's all just titles. In Thailand, as I say, they call you Pra and your given name. So often you might see in the comments people address me as Pradhan, because I was in Thailand for a long time, and that's what I was called there, Pradhan. Whereas here I'm just Bante. And my name is Bante Dharmarakita, but it's a bit of a mouthful, so it gets shortened to just Bante D. But nobody needs to use anyone's names, just Bante is enough. People know who you're talking to. If it's attracting someone's attention from across the room, one might say Bante, and even then you might not remember their Pali name, even if you've been living with them for some time, or it's long. So we have little nicknames, so I might say, oh, Bante guest monk over there, or Bante electrician monk, something like this, just to attract attention. But this is very rare. We just use the Bante. Or if you're talking to a junior monk, it should be, you'd just say Bante, but you can just use the term avuso, which is the Pali for friend or brother, friend. So avuso for a junior monk who refers to you, addresses you formally, addresses you Bante, and you formally address a junior monk avuso. But really we just say Bante. So the Buddha, in the word of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, is to use the vernacular of where you are. So if you're talking about speech, if you're teaching Dharma, he said to his disciples, he instructed the Sangha to use the vernacular, the language, the common phraseology of where it is that you are teaching. Don't try and be aloof and different. And really there he was sort of alluding to this tendency some people have to try and emphasize their understanding of anatta, not self. They say things like, this person entered the room. This person is sitting down. This person requires sustenance. Or this being, or something like that. Well, you can use the I. Being able to comfortably say, I entered the room, I sat down, I need some food, isn't affirming a sense of self or Sakkaya Ditthi, personality view. It's showing you're comfortable with using language and have no doubts about your understanding of not-self. This emphasis on a third-person description is only demonstrating insecurities about your understanding of not-self. So the Buddha said, use the vernacular of the place. So if you have Venerable Keith or Venerable Alan, I'm not really keen on this venerable term. It's a bit of a mouthful also. Bhante is just quite short and quick. If you're addressing monks as a lay practitioner, then yes, I suppose in your own language, venerable is good. But yeah, I've never come across a Venerable Keith or a Venerable Alan, even though I was technically, I suppose, a Venerable Dan, and still am. But never really, don't get too much into names and what we're called. And it varies so much from monastery to monastery in countries, and I've come to learn there's about 4 or 5 ways people refer to me. They want to attract my attention. So on alms round in the morning when I'm walking, I hear a word I can never pronounce, haruduwawa, something like that, which means reverend. Haruduwawa, something like that I hear. And I think, there's someone wanting to put something in my bowl, so I turn around. Sadhu, which is a completely different meaning of a religious practitioner, a wandering ascetic. The sadhus are those ascetic practitioners wandering in India, more of a Hindu tradition. But that also applies to me here, I've come to understand. So there's a Swami Wansa, whatever that means. I think there's another one, I can't think of it. There are 4. Bhante, very, very rarely I can call Bhante here. That's not a word they use at all. In some forest monasteries, yes, they do. They use the Pali words. They're more disciplined like that. But outside of them, and in the villages and the town temples, they use all sorts of localized terminology or the vernacular of the place. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Buddha encouraged that. So that yes, it makes for an easier understanding of those people coming to Theravada Buddhism in the first instance. What if there are evil people wanting to destroy our societies, i.e. the Sangha? How can we do nothing and just show compassion? Well, how can we do nothing? There's no need to have a how can we do nothing, just do nothing. That's the beauty of doing nothing, is there's no need to know how to do nothing, you just don't do anything. But with regards to destroying our societies and destroying the Sangha, others cannot destroy a society, others cannot destroy the Sangha. The society is made up of the people in that society. So only the individual people can be destroyed. And once they're all destroyed and gone, then that group of people we call a society is no longer. But another group of people will pop up, another society will be formed. With regards to the Sangha, it too cannot be destroyed. You cannot destroy the Sangha. One can create divisions within the Sangha, which is for a bhikkhu to do that, a monk to do that, one of the most serious offences. So we all get on harmoniously within the Sangha, but externally no one can destroy the Sangha as long as there are ordained bhikkhus. That is a Sangha. Now even if there's just one in one country and another bhikkhu in another country, it's a Sangha. And if there's one bhikkhu left, one dies, it's still a Sangha. When there are no more bhikkhus, no more ordained bhikkhus, then there is still the idea of the Sangha because there is still the Dharma. There is still knowledge of the Buddha, our teacher, the Dharma, and therefore the remains of the Sangha, theoretically, but with no more lineage to ordain further bhikkhus, there would be no Sangha. But as you can imagine, with the sheer number of Sangha members, individuals, ordained bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, that would take a very, very long time. So, evil people wanting to destroy our societies, you're really referring to people with different views and opinions than your own, wanting to alter the way that the people within those societies or the people within a Sangha act and behave themselves. So, doing nothing isn't just that. It is maintaining your way of living, and in the case of the Sangha, this is in accordance with its very detailed code of conduct and way of practice, which has remained intact and unaltered throughout millennia since the time of the Buddha, having been established over his 45 years of teaching and developing the original Sangha, then written down and put in place, has not changed and has served to protect and reinforce the Sangha's presence right to this day, 2,569, 70 years later. There's no other organisation ever in history that has remained unchanged throughout even 1 year, let alone thousands of years. Every year, organisations and countries, and countries even, change their laws, their bylaws, their rules, their regulations. The Sangha hasn't done so. The Vinaya remains constant, unchanged. So, if you see evil people as a threat to destroying what you consider as your society or your Sangha, it's because you're insecure in your convictions of that society and the way it is. But there's no need to be. The Sangha is there to be taken refuge in for that reason. It offers protection, security, refuge. By the very nature of the way it sustained itself for so long, unchanged. We even wear the same clothes as they did in the time of the Buddha. So, doing nothing is being confident, having faith, in other words. Saddha is the Pali word for faith. Faith in what we've taken refuge in, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. As far as societies are concerned, it's a much broader and more volatile subject, because you may have a society made up of many different religions, for instance, and one religion may wish to impose its views on others. This is what you could consider as maybe something being, as you say evil people, but maybe they're just people with different views to your own, wanting to change your views. In that case, then that society is no longer a society. It's two societies living in conjunction with each other, or not, as the case may be. But the Sangha as itself is autonomous in that sense. And as long as there is a monk in robes, there is a Sangha. So it's very resistant to being destroyed, attacked. And I think with regards to just showing compassion, as I started off with the first comment, we'll develop with our practice this quality of understanding those that are trying to destroy, as you say, our societies. If that's what they're really doing. And do you have, what is a society after all? Each individual is part of that society. Those individuals are not individually destroyed, or maybe they are. But that's another matter. The society as a whole is just a convention, a term. Can we sit on the chair while meditating? Yes, if you wish to. If you can't sit on the floor, then sit on a chair. But not a chair with arms, resting your arms like this, or leaning like that. And not a chair with a back. If it has a back, don't lean back on it. You see, I'm sitting on the floor like this. This is ideal. You don't need anything then. You can meditate anywhere. Half lotus position, full lotus, it doesn't matter. Just sit on the floor, but upright and erect. In fact, this is really the only way you can sit on the floor for any length of time, with your legs not all squashing each other to cut off the nerves or blood supply or whatever. So, if you're sitting on a chair because you've got bad knees or something, or bad hips, or a bad back, or you're just old and stiff, then that's okay. But sit on a stool, or a normal plastic chair is great without arms, and just sit upright with your feet straight down on the floor, your knees at right angles and your feet facing forward. But you don't need to lean back and lean this way. I mean, I have a big problem in Sri Lanka. It's not a big problem, but a lack of understanding as to the necessity for chairs is so dominant. For monks, all the monks here sit outside of forest monasteries, even in some forest monasteries, they sit in chairs because they've become used to that, accustomed to that. And not only is it chairs, the lay practitioners insist on putting white cloth over the chairs. It's what's done here. And they always give you these chairs with the arms and the backs. So you have to sit like this with your feet down, like that, in a chair, like a throne. And as you see, I don't have any such things in here because this is not how people sat. This is not how people to this day sit in India, where the Buddha came from. The Buddha sat on a grass mat like this. Someone would offer some grass so he could sit on something rather than the wet floor. Not a throne. Okay, a throne, a lotus. He's sitting on a bed of lotuses there in the statue. But not a chair, not a throne. So where this idea of all sitting, monks have to sit in chairs, all upright like this, with their fan in front of them, and umbrellas over them, comes from, I don't know. But when it comes to meditating, you've got an hour to wait in the airport. What do? Everybody has to get up, put cloth over the chair. You have to sit somewhere formally, upright like this. By the time that's happened and people have gathered, you're not going to have the opportunity to meditate. No, that's not the bhikkhu life. I go away, sit in a corner somewhere, on the floor. I have my sitting cloth with me, pop that on the floor, sit down like this, meditate. If anyone gathers, it doesn't matter. But they don't really like that here much, because monks shouldn't just sit on the floor. People don't know what to do. If you walk by and they're sitting, they'll get up. If you're sitting, they'll stay standing up. And then you're addressing people like this. And I'm sure they feel uncomfortable, as does the person sitting on the floor feel uncomfortable. So why not just everybody sit on the floor? It's easier. But yeah, if you're uncomfortable with sitting on the floor for your meditation, yeah, it's any posture. Sitting, standing, walking, lying down. And sitting can be sitting on a chair. No problem. But not for lazing around, being comfortable. I've seen all kinds of monk chairs that even are on the floor to give the impression of sitting on the floor, but are actually chairs. I've seen soft, cushiony, basically chairs, armchairs with arms, padded backs and bases without the legs. So a whole armchair, a recliner like this thing. I've seen this in temples here and elsewhere, not just here, everywhere. But armchairs without legs. Why? This is my question. Why? Why is that necessary? If you're old, yes. And stiff, yes. But I'm not young. But I'm not old either, I suppose, by comparison. But I hope I can continue sitting like this, either on the floor or on a raised platform, or if I have to sit on a chair, I still sit like this, which is why I'd always prefer not to have arms, because they get in the way of sitting like this. Because I've become used to it. But not because I've been living like this all of my life. I didn't sit cross-legged on the floor until I was, I don't know, late 30s, 40s. No, in my 40s. And it was very difficult at first, but it didn't take that long to get used to it. It's just discipline, it's just effort, it's trying. And putting the effort and the discipline and trying to do something that's slightly uncomfortable is part of the practice. It's going against the stream. It's not succumbing to your desires for comfort and ease and relaxation. Ask yourself, why do you want to sit in a chair? Is it because you've got stiff arthritic knees and hips? Or is it because you think it'll be more comfortable and you'll get to samadhi more quickly that way? That's wrong view. You'll get to samadhi more quickly through effort. Right effort precedes right mindfulness and right samadhi, right concentration, meditation in the Noble Eightfold Path. And part of that effort applies to the whole practice, keeping sila and practicing meditation. In relation to meditation, right effort is putting yourself out a little bit, finding the time to meditate, and then using the resources you have available. And if there aren't special chairs or cushions to sit on, making use of what you do have, wherever you are, which is the ground or the floor. And for that you only need a bit of cloth. Maybe if it's wet, a bit of plastic cloth or piece of plastic. But other than that, this is all you should need. And once you get used to this, then you can meditate anywhere. Then you'll get samadhi easily. Because wherever you get the opportunity, you can sit and meditate. You don't need an entourage of people bringing cloths and special thrones for you to sit on. So people who have to sit in chairs have not been doing this. I used to always sit in a chair in my office or in the car or at home, and when I came to meditate for the first time, thought, that's not possible. I can't sit on the floor like that for long. But I had no choice. I wanted to meditate. Eventually, I was meditating. And then eventually got rid of all the chairs and the extras because they were no longer necessary and just an obstacle and something else that needed to be looked after, dusted, maintained, cleaned. Monks in the time of the Buddha all just sat on the ground around the tree, just on their cloths, pieces of cloth. And the sitting cloth is just to protect our robes from the ground, but also if we go to sit anywhere that's nice and clean, and we're not clean because we've been outside, protect, the external environment. So it's a two-way thing. A little piece of thin cloth between us and where we're sitting. Simplicity. And this leads to samadhi. Okay, so is there a shorter question now I could just quickly answer? Oh, same one, so that's doubled up there. So I have a question regarding anatta, not self. This is relative to what we call ego, yes? Ego is sakkaya ditthi, a personality view. Ego just means I, the Latin, I think, for I. Assuming one is using the term I to imply a belief in your own existence as a personality, the thinking brain and the physical body. But your question is, could you elaborate on how the beginners, like myself, could better understand this concept of ego in daily life? So don't use this, you can use the word ego, but sakkaya ditthi is the word for personality view. And our practice is to abandon sakkaya ditthi, personality view, by the realization that we are not this physical body and this thinking brain. Now, subsequent to receiving this comment, I've spoken quite a lot in recent talks about the five khandhas, about not self, and on this very subject. So I would suggest, if you haven't seen previous videos recently, then go back a few episodes or whatever you'd call them and look at those rather than me explain it all again now. But there's not much to explain other than through the practice, through meditation, you will come to realize and understand the nature of the thinking mind is impermanent. There is nothing of any substance there. Thoughts come and go. The physical body is entirely out of our control and continually changing. So to think that this is ours, is us, is coming from a place of delusion, a lack of understanding. And the practice shows us how to understand what this physical body and this thinking brain comprises of, broken down into its five components, its five physical components of the body, the feelings, the perception, the mental formations, and the sense consciousness, the five khandhas. So just, go back over a few talks and that will hopefully clear that up for you. Someone asked me, do I meditate with my eyes opened or closed? Well, I meditate with my eyes closed because otherwise there's too much to see. So the traditions that meditate with their eyes open, they're usually facing a wall, something like that, which is much the same idea. And the reason you ask is because if you close your eyes, you feel asleep, whereas with your eyes open, you feel more grounded. If that helps you, then that's okay, that's fine. You can meditate with your eyes open. But you will be blinking, you'll be continually blinking, so essentially you've got a rhythm of dark light, even in a darkened room, there's activity there. So the idea is we're not going to sleep, but we're training ourselves to remain alert and awake and observe the mind clearly without drowsiness and drifting off into sleep, but without external stimulation to help us stay awake. So by closing the eyes, we're ensuring that there's nothing to externally stimulate our wakefulness, and we can bring all of our focused attention to the meditation object. Now, if that meditation object is not visual, there is no need to have the eyes open. Also, with the eyes closed, your face can relax fully. With the eyes open, it will be blinking. There is some tension, slight tension around the eyes, the forehead, the brow. Now we look to meditate to have the body time to fully relax of its own accord. And the way to encourage this is to relax one's face. So eyes gently closed, not squeezed shut, but just gently closed. Requiring no focus, no attention to sense consciousness coming as a result of seeing. So, whatever works best for you. And on that note, I think we will leave it there until next time. I hope there's something useful you can use in your practice. If not, just let it go and don't let it bother you. But until next time, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu.